Rushmore is a comedy masterpiece with a capital M. It was, it is, it always will be. Rushmore is the truth. Rushmore to me is a movie like we were saying last week with Mothra vs. Godzilla, like I was saying about Pound Pressburger's Matter of Life and Death. It's a movie that combines the best parts of a director's aesthetic and filmography into one movie. Because in Rushmore we get more. We don't really. I mean, we get it in bits and pieces and little glimpses in Bottle Rocket, but Rushmore is the first time we get a full glimpse of the Wes Anderson aesthetic. These big wide shots with the character at the center. This meticulous detail around production design and costuming. This gorgeous use of color. These sort of lavish but also sort of handcrafted sets. But the thing that we get so much in Rushmore that we get it with diminishing returns through subsequent movies is we get a lot of that Wilson energy in this movie, baby. We get Owen co-wrote it, but we also get a lot of Luke, and we even get some freaking Andrew in there, baby. He plays the baseball coach. And to me, this is the two things coming together. The way that Mothra vs. Godzilla gave us the camp of the later Godzillas with the pathos of the original Godzilla. The way that A Matter of Life and Death gave us the beautiful Cardiff cinematography of the later movies, plus with still the British wit of the earlier movies. Similarly, here in Rushmore, we get the best parts of Wes Anderson's filmography together, and they're both operating at the highest level. That aesthetic and what I'm just going to call the Wilson energy, baby, that wild-ass Wilson energy. And I don't know, look, I don't know who did what, who was responsible for what, but I feel confident in saying that because here's a couple specifics, a couple facts that I'm operating off of. The Wilsons clearly had their biggest role in his movie in Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket almost feels more like a Wilson's brothers movie than it does a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
And then Owen co-wrote Rushmore, and the Wilsons are still featured prominently in it. Owen Wilson also co-wrote Royal Tenenbaums, so I know that he had some sort of creative control over his character in Royal Tenenbaums. But then after that, the Wilson role in the Anderson filmography fades, and to me, that's when Wes really starts to burrow into the Wesness of it all, to that aesthetic, to that sort of. I once read a comment that Wes Anderson doesn't direct films; he curates them, and I think that's a very accurate way of putting it, that we just get more and more just of Wes burrowing into Wes, deeper and deeper and deeper into Wes. And to me, that's a huge miss, because in Rushmore, we see what could have been if he had sort of been more comfortable with I think, with sort of ceding a little bit of control. And there's a specific anecdote that tells me a lot and gives me confidence in this viewpoint, that that great line at the dinner scene when Luke Wilson says Max says, I like your nurse's uniform. He's trying to humiliate Luke Wilson's character because he's dating Miss Cross. And Luke Wilson goes, these are OR scrubs. And then Max goes, oh, are they? And then Bill Murray chokes on his drink. And it's very funny. That was a Luke Wilson's idea, that line. And I've heard that this kind of made Wes mad, that it was because it was the line that got the biggest laugh at the screenings. It's a line that like people quote, "Oh, are they?" And I have read, or maybe it was in the DVD commentary or something, that Wes was not entirely happy that this ad lib was the biggest line, because again, this is a guy who obsessively curates his movies, and we see him over time shifting to different collaborators, always with a collaborator, but collaborators who are more in line with the Wesness of it all. Noah Baumbach, Roman Coppola, probably who knows what Roman's
but
actually.
But the same cinematographer.
Well, of course, yes, yeah.
It's interesting their journey together.
But to me, what the Wilsons bring is they bring and I'm not saying they're entirely responsible. I like Wesness. I like Wes with the Wilsons.
You're making a good point,
because the Wilsons bring this scrappiness, this tenacity, this like fun realism, this sense of like a fun sense of humor that is not like because even now, like in Asteroid City and the new ones, they're funny, but they're funny in just they're haha funny. They're like haha. The funny lines are so carefully like constructed and executed, and he doesn't even let his actors really emote that much anymore. Every performance is so sort of muted and controlled. Where in Rushmore, we get some wild boys getting wild with it. We get Bill Murray getting wild. We get Jason Schwartzman getting wild. We get the whole supporting cast getting wild with it, right? There's a sort of a real scrappiness that combines so well with his like hyper controlled visual aesthetic. And that's why Rushmore to me is so great. And it's also so great because it just has so many banging scenes and so many banging lines. This was a movie you can tell was made by like young filmmakers with a blank check, because they were like, okay, every scene needs to be the best scene that's ever been filmed in a movie. It's that kind of movie where every scene is just like there's no wasted dialogue. The compositions are so specific. The lines are so funny.
But does it emotionally land for you?
It
like,
does, because
at
there's
the end, like, are you like,
yes.
oh,
I am, because
really?
there are, because of I'll give you some examples, because this is a movie that does have some genuinely sweet, earnest moments that I feel for it, because we have not gotten into just sort of like bloodless Wes Anderson territory yet, where these are not real people. These are toys in Wes Anderson's imagination. And look, we're clearly Wes Anderson, like later sort of like his late period is not for us. I love that he makes movies. I love that
in with you.
I love that a like independent original IP auteur is out there doing his thing. I love it. It's just not the later Wes Anderson period is not for me.
I gently disagree.
But in Rushmore, we still get some real moments that move me. When little things like when Max goes to the public school and he gets a C- on his math test, which is good for Max, and his teacher gives him a little like attaboy nod. I love that. When Bill Murray and Miss Cross and Dirk, his friend played by the kid who played Dennis the Menace, whose name I'm forgetting, they're all at the basketball game, like at his new school, and Bill Murray's like so happy just to be at this like high school basketball game with his friends and his girlfriend. It's so sweet. When Bill Murray says, "She's my Rushmore, Max," oh my god. when he offers them the 2 pins, he says, "I'll take punctuality."
I don't know.
When the bully admits at the very end, "I always wanted to be in one of your fucking plays." That was great. Come on, see, I'm getting you. I'm getting you.
Listen, Rushmore is funny. There was plenty of parts I laughed. It has actually my favorite Bill Murray, Wes Anderson being together movie of them all. And Bill Murray is so funny in the movie. There's a lot of funny jokes in the movie because of the Wilson point, I think is really apt, Brett. But personally, it doesn't all like come. I couldn't wait for it to end. And it just didn't like come together. I don't like get it. I don't like this. Now, look, Wes Anderson, I'm not afraid of pretension. It's not about the pretentiousness of Rushmore. That's not my problem. My favorite Wes Andersons are like literally Grand Budapest Hotel, the best. And then I absolutely loved French Dispatch, and I didn't like Asteroid City. I'm totally fine with him spiraling in on himself. I totally love that he's Jiro down in the subway working on his rice for 30 years.
Working on his baubles in his workshop.
I appreciate that, and I think it's borne incredible artistic results. In Rushmore, I don't know, man.
So many good lines.
I know, but those are lines. Like there's just like
but said by characters who are surprisingly real, despite all the sort of hijinks.
It's grating. It's just like someone's taking a cheese grater and just rubbing it against my forehead the whole entire time. And I just want to say,
universal
stop!
experience. Here's the universal experience of Rushmore. That despite all the pomp and circumstance, there is a fundamentally universal experience at the heart of it, which I don't find in all of Wes Anderson's movies.
Wait, what was the universe? Because I didn't experience it.
Which is that a high school kid who is desperate for what he perceives to be the higher stakes of adulthood, is desperate to partake in adulthood, but is not prepared emotionally yet for what it entails, and is also like not like is like too innocent for it, because what we see of the adult world here is that it's just full of sad, lonely people betraying each other constantly for some fleeting experience of pleasure or power. And so this kid wants to partake in it, though, and the only way he can do it is through extracurriculars in high school, which is so like relatable. That's what you cannot tell me. That's what you were like in high school. That's what I was like in high school.
No.
That's what's great about
Of course,
never
Brett.
has a movie like understood the role that extracurriculars in high school play. They're not just some sort of like
Amen.
hobbies after school.
No, of
they are the
course.
ways. They are the ways that you transcend. What you perceive as the immaturity of your surroundings.
Don't play to my
And
heartstrings.
This is
on this one.
exactly. See, this is what I'm
No,
talking about.
yeah,
This is what I'm talking about.
I watched the movie.
You
with
get to sort of
my
mimic
eyes.
adulthood because you get control over something. The teachers say, "Oh, there'll be a faculty sponsor in the room, but they're on their phone or reading reading a
Brett.
magazine, and then you get to play. You get to control a world. It's so exciting. It's so thrilling, and it's not just solving a calculus problem and being told you're right or wrong. It's you get to have control and you get to have agency, right? And you're softening. You're melting. You're melting.
I'm not melting.
This is what Rushmore does, baby.
No, it doesn't. This is what you're doing.
Look,
Listen, you can't look. I like extracurriculars. Rushmore's pretty funny. It's not my favorite movie. It's not my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's like it's not like it doesn't hit me in my heart. There's a permanent abstraction in his filmmaking that is almost like it's just impossible to penetrate. And only great performances like that of Ralph Fiennes in Grand Budapest, or like Jeffrey Wright in Asteroid City, or in French Dispatch can get outside that rigid frame.
I was gonna
Bill Murray and Jason Schwartzman, by the way, who does an amazing job in this movie.
I do want to say, with all my
okay?
criticism of late period Wes Anderson, I thank you. I do want to give credit to Ralph Fiennes and Grand Budapest Hotel.
Come on.
I also, going along with my Wilson's argument, one of the last great Wes Anderson characters, and it happened so early on. I love Owen Wilson's character in Royal Tenenbaums. That to me is the most human character, the most human character in that movie.
Yeah.
Is that the pretentious Cormac McCarthy esque character, who's also like sending all of his reviews back to the Tenenbaum mother just because all he wants is approval from the Tenenbaums, is so relatable and human in the midst of all the other kind of circus hijinks of that movie. Here's what I'll say. Wes Anderson, there's two, and again, make your movies, baby. I ain't got nothing wrong with them.
God bless you,
But
Wes.
here's the two places you went wrong. The two times that two roads diverged and you took the wrong one, baby. Number one, you got to go back to work with the Wilsons again. Work with the Wilsons. Discover your heart again. Discover your soul again. Work with the Wilsons, baby. Number two, you shouldn't have signed the Palanti letter, okay? She was 13. You don't have to sign the letter. They'll still let you go in your workshop and make your baubles, okay?
Cruel intentions, Brett.
You didn't have to sign. Actually, maybe he did have to sign the letter. I don't know how Hollywood works.
Cruel
but
intentions.
Two things from my perspective that went wrong. You shouldn't have to sign the letter. You shouldn't have signed the letter. And number one, don't forget about the Wilsons. Don't forget where you came from, baby.
I'm sure there's a personal story to why Owen took time.
I don't want to hear it. Get over it, okay? Get over it.
Okay.